Hello everyone. There you go. This is requested by Mohamed. This is 1914, The Shaping of the Modern Muslim World, Part 1, Dr. Yasir. We're in the final part. Let's go. Maybe.
What did the Brits do? The Brits awarded themselves 3 territories. They get the lion's share because they're the Brits. They get whatever they want. The first land, they called it Transjordan. And eventually Transjordan, in our map, it is Jordan, Palestine, and Israel. They called it Transjordan. The second land is Iraq. They get all of Iraq. And the third land is Hijaz or Arabia. So they get these 3 large lands. And the Sharif of Mecca kept on clamoring, you promise. So they decided, okay, you know what, you're right, we did promise. So they took his 3 sons, and in one of the most bizarre things in recent history, they literally handed each one of the sons one of these lands. Yalla, go take it. Now obviously when they said this, it's understood the Brits are going to be the real puppeteers. These are figureheads, and they know it. The figureheads know it. Right? And so the eldest son of Sharif Hussein, his name was Ali. Ali was given the Hijaz. You get Arabia. And immediately Ali called himself the king of Hijaz. And he ruled that very long rule from October 1924 to December 1925. Very long rule. Because obviously there was another power brewing in that region, and that is the power of the Al Saud. The Saudis, who were also financed by the British, unbelievably. As they're financing the Sharifs, they're also financing the Al Saud. And I know this is painful for some of us in the audience, but the haqq is the haqq here, okay? That as they are financing them, they're also financing the other group, right? And it is now well known. I mean, you cannot deny this. The documents are quite there, right? And it's it's surreal. How many groups are you financing? What are you instigating with whom? And eventually when Al Saud becomes...
It's kind of like you're financing everyone, and whoever wins, congratulations to us. You know what I mean?
More and more powerful, the Brits basically absolve themselves of the Sharif, Ali ibn Sharif Hussein, and they allow Al Saud to basically unify Arabia, and the Al Saud then call the country their own, and they say it is the kingdom of Saudi Arabia. The kingdom of Saudi Arabia. And so from that point in time, that Sharif family is cut off. Okay, so Ali ibn Sharif Hussein is cut off now. And he goes into exile, he dies a miserable death, a sad death, a lonely death, and Saudi Arabia is now, as you know, Saudi Arabia. The second oldest son of Sharif, his name is Abdullah ibn Sharif Hussein. He is given Jordan. And that is the only one of the 3 who, Allah's qadr has it, was successful in his own way. And he proclaims himself the king of the Hashemite kingdom of Jordan. Hashemite because he's Hashemi in lineage, right? And eventually his grandson Hussein becomes the king. And Hussein was the king from 1952 to 1999. And then he died, and currently it is Hussein's son Abdullah. And so the current king of Jordan is the great-great-grandson of the Sharif Hussein of Mecca. Clear? The current king of Jordan is the great-great-grandson of the very one who made the deal with the Brits. And he's the only one that Allah's qadr has it, that they remain there. Otherwise, the Hashemite king of Jordan has absolutely nothing to do with Jordan. He is from Mecca, and he is Hashemi. And the Brits literally plucked him up there and threw him there, and he is still ruling that land to this day, him and his descendants. Tayyib, that's the second of the 3. The third of the 3 was the youngest, Faisal. And Faisal was the most friendliest to T.E. Lawrence. And Faisal was made governor of Iraq. And he immediately calls himself the king of Iraq. MashaAllah, we got 3 kings, 3 brothers. All of them wanted to be kings. There's king here, king here, king there. And you can see in their blood. You see it's in them, right? By the way, I forgot to tell you, Ali, the eldest, he actually called himself Khalifa for a while. The one in Mecca. The eldest. When his father died, and the Ottomans are no longer there. So now he says, I am the Khalifatul Muslim. He self-appoints himself the Khalifa. Didn't really last for too long, and the Khilafah never was considered to be his. In any case, the third of the three, Faisal ibn al-Hussein, he is made the governor of Iraq. He becomes the king of Iraq. And Iraq is a little bit more complicated, but the people of Iraq they literally kicked him out. Literally. They didn't want him. And they kicked him out. The Brits installed one of his cousins and nephews, again the Hashemite, the Sharif family, and 2-3 other kings, cousins, relatives came, until finally in 1958, the Iraqi army revolted against the great-grandson of the Sharif, basically one of the Sharifs, and in a sad tragedy, no doubt all of these are sad, they gathered together the entire family, men, women, and children in a room, and they shot them to death, all of them, the entire Sharif family that was in Baghdad at the time, and that was in 1958, and a young army cadet at the time, eventually in 1968 rises to power, and his name is Saddam Hussein. Just 10 years after, and he was in the army at the time. He wasn't in the room, but his leaders, the people he knew, were in charge of the 58 revolution. Right? So we're not going too far back here. You see my point here. This is very recent history. Well, what happened in Turkey? The Allied forces initially agreed to a treaty that was called the Treaty of Sevres in 1920, which effectively handed Turkey over to the Brits. Effectively, the treasury, the politics, the police would be given over to the Brits. But a faction of Turks rebelled against this. And that faction was led by that dashing general who had become famous in the War of Gallipoli, and his name is? Well, his name is not Ataturk, his name is Mustafa Kemal. And Mustafa Kemal fought against the British, revolted against this treaty. Make a long story short, he established an independent homeland for the Turks, 1/6 of the original size of the Ottoman land. But nonetheless, an independent Turkish state, and he called it the Republic of Turkey. And you all know that Ataturk was of the most secular Muslims we have seen. He hated Islam with a passion, as you know, and he completely changed the entire system inside of his lands. He banned the recitation of the Quran in Arabic. The adhan was given in Turkish. The salah was recited in Turkish. He banned the hijab. He banned religious schools. He did so many things. And one of the acts that he did, eventually, on March 3rd in 1924, he deposed the last Ottoman caliph, Abdul Majid II, and he sent him into exile. And therefore, in 1924, the Ottoman Caliphate, in fact the Khilafah of the Muslims that had been in operation since the time of Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, non-stop, continuously, even the Mongols did not destroy the Caliphate. It lived on. Even the Mongols could not get rid of the Caliphate. Well, from 1914 onwards, a series of events precipitated in the Muslim world that eventually led to the collapse of the Caliphate. And from 1924 up until our time, we have not had a caliph. Here there is a picture of the last Ottoman caliph, Abdul Majid II. And I chose a very interesting picture. I apologize about the picture of the lady, but that is his daughter by the name of Khadija. And she was his last daughter. And this is a picture taken in Paris. He went into exile in Paris. He died in 1939, I think, before World War II he died. And listen to this. This is a very interesting point of history. Very recent. In fact, their children are still alive now. Listen to this. The most powerful and richest Muslim ruler in the world was, at the time, you should know. Guess. The Indian knows. The Nizam of Hyderabad. Huh? The Nizam of Hyderabad. It is estimated by modern historians that the Nizam of Hyderabad was the richest man in human history. This is what is estimated. The richest man in human history was the Nizam of Hyderabad. Because obviously, he's accruing his wealth over hundreds of years, and I think they valued it at $200 billion or something dollars. He owns jewels and whatnot, and at that time, the equivalent of $200 billion, at that time, obviously not now, he doesn't exist at the point, right? So, the Nizam of Hyderabad was the richest and one of the most powerful Muslim rulers. the Ottomans had collapsed. And there was this feeling that we need a type of messianic figure. So what is to be done? Let us take the son of the Nizam of Hyderabad, seen in his, mashallah, Italian suit, if you can now go back to the picture, his handmade Italian suit over here, and his name is, what is his name? I forgot his name. Oh, it's on there. Himayat Ali Khan Bahadur. Himayat Ali Khan Bahadur, the son of the Nizam of Hyderabad, marries the youngest daughter of the deposed Ottoman Khalifa, and that is Khadija in the background. And it is hoped that the union of these two will bring about the Mahdi figure, if you like, or the not the Mahdi, but you get the point. The savior, right? Well, they had children, but the marriage ended in divorce, and those children are still alive to this day, but they are very far from having any role in Muslim Ummah. Let's just put it that way, okay? And it didn't quite turn out the way that the Ummah had planned. In any case, final point, what exactly happened to Palestine, if we can go back to the slide. Last and most definitely not least, what happened to Palestine, and where and how did the modern nation state of Israel come along? Well, for that story, I'm afraid we will have to go to part 2, and we will continue this, insha'Allah ta'ala, this Sunday. We will continue on Sunday. Inshallah, you'll get an email around 11 o'clock or so, and I will have the help of Dr. Nabil and others as well, inshallah. It won't just be me, because there's a lot of history here.
I haven't spoken a whole lot because I've been interested in what he said, so this is my pause to say I didn't have anything to add. My apologies. My apologies for stopping. Back to the video.
So we will, inshallah, continue this class, and we especially want you to bring the youngsters, because by youngsters I mean like above 10, just to understand history. Because the fact of the matter is, forget the youngsters, wallahi, most of us, we don't know. We do not know the reality of how Palestine was taken away from us. We do not know. So what happened after World War I, and between World War I and World War II, and all of these different treaties and whatnot, this is a whole different lecture and talk. And we have decided to be controversial. We have decided to go full swing ahead. And I don't think there's any real controversy, because the whole point is we will give you the facts. You'll be the judge. This is the reality. There's no conspiracy here. We have told you what the Brits promised, the Brits promised, the Brits promised. This is the reality, right? And now, after World War I, what happened to the Sykes-Picot and the Balfour Declaration and Transjordan and Palestine and Israel? This will be the topic of Sunday, inshallah ta'ala. We will send you the flyer, and maybe 11:30 or so. Don't have the exact timing, but inshallah, make sure you bring the youngsters, and you as well. Make sure you come and be prepared to basically take notes and know, because the fact of the matter is, wallahi, brothers and sisters, how many of us, even I, when I started studying Islam, had no idea of how recent these things were. You really think these countries are set in stone, and you never stop to realize, how did they come about? How did the Muslim Ummah get divided into 60 plus countries when we used to have one Khilafah? Where did these borders come from? We never stop to think, right? And the reality is, these borders are in the generation of my grandfather and your grandfather. You know, the last survivor of World War I died last year. This is recent. Last year, the last survivor was big news. Last year. And the children of some of these people we discussed are still alive. I was shocked to find out that some of the children of the Ottoman Caliph are still alive, 80-something years old. The last Ottoman Caliph is still alive, right? This is not, we're not going back to ancient history. This is our generation. 100 years ago, this began, 1914. And inshallah, the next few years, I have made it my own personal agenda to talk about these lectures and this history and bring it back to the conscience of the Ummah, because, and with this we conclude, in my humble reading of Islamic history, and I'm not an expert in history, but I'm dabbling, as you can see. I'm not an expert, by no means, but we should all know this stuff. In my humble reading of Islamic history, one of the lowest of the lows of the Ummah happened in 1914 onwards. Can you imagine hearing the Brits have taken Damascus, the Brits have taken Baghdad, the Brits and the French have marched into Istanbul, right to the gates of the Ottoman Khalifa, literally surrounding the Ottoman palace? Can you imagine, right? Can you imagine the distress hearing the Ottoman Caliphate has been abolished? The Indians, Pakistanis here, study your own history. The concept of Khilafat movement. Pakistan owes its existence to the feeling of depression that happened when the Khilafah was abolished. The Khilafah movement, the Chaudhry brothers, Shaukat Ali and Ali and Muhammad Ali, right? The entire Khilafat movement, Iqbal is versifying. Iqbal has poetry about Hussein and Sharif, making fun of them, the Sharif family. Right? Making fun of them. What have you done? What's the famous line? Maybe you tell me. You have Hijaz in your blood, but it's not in your character. Something like this, right? That you're Hijazi in your ethnicity, but where are your actions? You're betraying the ummah, right? Shikwa and Jawab Shikwa also comes in this time. So the point is, this is very recent stuff. And the entire transformation of the ummah, we can date it back to now. Now my point is, if we had been alive at this time, wallahi, it would be like one stab after another. But, my dear brothers and sisters, in my humble analysis, we see now a revival, alhamdulillah, that is pleasing to the hearts. Yes, politically painful. Politically, Syria, look, la hawla la quwwata illa billah. May Allah Azza wa Jal give them sabr and patience and overthrow this Alawi regime that has destroyed the land of the Muslims. But that is politics. How about the people? How about the sha'b? How about the sahwa? How about the enthusiasm of the ummah? Alhamdulillah, we see Muslims coming back to their religion. We see Muslims wanting to study, learn, pray. We see Muslims identifying with Islam, feeling Islamic. And this is optimism that did not exist in 1918. So I believe, insha'Allah, that times are changing. That insha'Allah ta'ala we can look forward to better times in the future in our own, insha'Allah, time frame. And that's one of the reasons why we need to study the past, so that we don't make the same mistakes in the future, so that we don't have deja vu, promises and this. And no, we should see through the reality and learn from the mistakes of the past and see what we ourselves, the mistakes that were made, the double crossing and the internal fighting. And insha'Allah ta'ala, we will continue this.
I think the double crossing and everything like that, like you should look back on everything and just learn from it, period. You know, they got double crossed, but learn from everything. Learn from what happened to others. Because just because it happened to you before, you learn from it, doesn't mean it'll happen again. But what could happen to you is something that happened to someone else, some other country, some other group of people. So if you learn about everything, then you're going to have a sharper ability to discern what's good and what isn't. No, wait a minute. Yeah. I understand what you're saying, but we've heard this kind of pledge from this country regarding, you know, a different group. So it's always good to learn all aspects. And I'm guilty of not learning all aspects. So it's easy for me to say that. But, you know, again, I'm somebody who doesn't do that. Not every aspect of everything. You know, I'll learn, like, let's say there was 10 countries that all got screwed over and they were all lied to in various degrees. I may learn about 3 things. So I'm guilty of it too.
This on Sunday. It's really late. Unfortunately, we don't have time for Q&A. But inshallah, on Sunday, we'll have time for Q&A. I will see you then. Jazakumullahu khairan. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Thank you, sir. Dr. Yasir. All right. I know some people are saying, why did you interrupt the video just to tell us you had nothing to add? I have to. I can't just sit here and let it play. They get mad at that. So I have to kind of react, throw in my opinion. And my opinion a lot of times is, some of the times, I have nothing to add because I'm enjoying the video. So if ever people wonder why I'm doing that, I have to. I can't just let it play. Then it's just me watching TV, according to YouTube. Okay, so I also have a thanks button. I don't know if he does. He should. But I have a thanks button. You can donate to the channel. All donations are appreciated. You can request videos. If you do, they move to the top of the list. If you don't donate and you request videos, they take longer to get to. Just a fact. Subscribe, that's free. Give a thumbs up, that helps me, and it's free. And if you want to give a thumbs down, you can. There's this new game. It's called the phlegm game, where you get stuff in your throat and just and it's about 50 people who all show up and they just hock up things, and then the one person who gave a thumbs down, you're tied to the ground and everyone just right in your mouth. It just overflows and you're and eventually you just gulp down 50 people's throat phlegm, and then they start, and it's round 2, and we just see how much you can swallow before you get sick. That's nasty. All right, that one got me at the end. So until, just give a thumbs up, avoid it. Until next time, have a good day, have a good night.